It's episode 341. What are they doing? Are there hero bands? And does the average level in Overwatch, as it stands currently in the West, lean more EU than it does in A? Shocker. We're going to find out. Yiska, how are we doing?
Okay-ish. You know, I
Yeah, shocker.
I got a little bit debated by the German summer, or rather the German spring. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it went to 20 degrees Celsius, 25, 24, like, t-shirt, shorts weather. And now we're back to almost freezing and like it's snowing
Mhm.
and like it is not fun. It's the April debate.
Yep. Ditto here. I won't speak for Eric in the producer booth, but did enjoy, like, I think we had like a week of like high 60-degree weather. It's been pretty warm. And now it's back to like on my little Windows taskbar, it's like breaking news, like freezing warning addressed today, like it's very, very much resonating with the missing of the weather. Getting up to anything? Diving into any shows? Do anything?
I mean, I'm not really. Like, I'm still finagling with like I did a recording a while ago. I'm just still finagling the production.
Okay. Teasing some content already. I like it.
But no, otherwise just, reporting and hopefully doing
Yes.
some interviews soon as well. And
Beautiful.
no, otherwise, I don't know. Like just
Like chilling?
chilling. I don't know, feeling a little allergies coming on.
Yeah.
That's like sort of
Yeah.
like making me rather tired at the moment, so we're coping.
I feel you there. I feel you there.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, less of the same, or definitely consuming a little bit more content. I'm feeling, that lack of creativity. I feel like you need to like
Yeah.
consume to produce. So I've sadly been getting into the Wheel of Prime, as apparently people call it. It's that's a ride.
Wait,
Um,
the actual TV show, not the books.
yes,
Yeah,
the
you're cooked. You're cooked, mate.
I will say it has made me very interested to see what the books are about, because without getting too into the weeds, because I do want to get into the Overwatch of things. You did talk about the report, and we do want to get into that. We have some games to go over, so we'll be doing some strat stuff. But yeah, the Wheel of Prime is interesting enough in the setting and the systems to a degree that's like piques my interest, but then the execution of almost everything is like, okay.
Yeah. Like I like that level of writing. Unfortunately, it's omnipresent now. Like just like with folks taking on books. I'll be honest. I had a very probably you would have to say Three Body Problem is a little bit better written as a show than Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I would say so. I
But
would I would say it's like a pretty it's a solid step up, but yeah, there's still some like
nah,
pretty
dude. Like
prevalent problems.
I would have I would feel guilty for watching porn plot this bad for both shows. Okay, like
Yes, there is a lot of like serious thick melodrama that's just like, I why why is everybody so angsty?
I
This is bad.
I cannot be made to suffer through the first bar dialogue in Three Body Problem. It's insane. It's an
Uh-huh.
insane injection into the story. It's not that the book itself is like incredibly written. Did you really have to undershoot it with the characters and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how that? Oh my god, it's so bad. It's like the typical like Amazon Prime
Mhm.
sci-fi show, but
But
there's actually substance behind it.
yes, that's
Lots
what I'm
behind.
saying. Like there is plot in like the bar scenes of the Three Body Problem. There isn't as many of them as there is injected into the Wheel of Prime. And I'm specifically going through and watching each episode, and then watching a YouTuber kind of break down like the differences between the book, and like analyzing like book versus show, and being like, this is, I just, who, why, Why is it like this? I think there are some things, if I'm understanding like
Have
the
they
gripes that
like it pisses me off that these talentless hacks have not realized by now that whenever they go off rails from the books, the great books that they are trying to adapt on,
yeah,
like your skill is adaptation, okay? You
yes,
only lose a couple of percent when you keep closer to the source material, okay?
hmm
That's your gift that you were given by the universe. Fucking use it. Stop writing that shit yourself. You're beyond talentless in it. It is actually insane that
it
this
is
shit is
bad.
getting funded. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm raging.
It's I mentioned this to somebody recently. We were talking about adaptations, and I'm like, I think because it was funnily enough, we were talking about the Fallout series. I don't know if you've caught the Fallout series or
I've
not.
not yet.
Finished it. It's probably if you're a fan of Fallout, I think you'll love it. If you're not a fan of Fallout, I think it'll still be very fun. Um, it's like a solid adaptation. It's a solid like it's true to the energy and the tone of the games and the universe that they've set up, and it does it well. Does it have serious problems? 100%. And there is the writing kind of campy and cringe at sometimes. You bet your sweet ass there's some bar scenes, right? But I think the big problem with adaptations is there is this like this balance that you just kind of have to nail. And so many other like unique works or original works just don't have that problem. Whereas it's so hard to get an adaptation right. And I do think like studios are getting better at it, but boy, is it a swing and a miss when you do kind of go off the rails or you're a little too on the rails and it's like, well, this kind of sucks. Like there is this balance of trying to do it justice without taking forever or being too slow.
Yeah.
Books as a medium, I feel like do lend itself to being a little slower, being a little bit more colorful, whereas it's kind of harder to do that visually, I think.
Yeah, it's not wrong. It's actually it's quite interesting. I've been watching a bunch of Freeran
Yeah.
recently,
It's on the
right?
list. It's on the list.
And I feel like there are shows that try to flip through like a Rolodex of the points it wants to address. Okay?
Yeah.
Have you
No.
seen The Good Place?
No.
The Good Place is basically like a show about like in really early on it's like a 101 philosophy. And it kind of
Okay.
lost me there and it keeps flipping through like basically explaining like very very basic philosophical concepts. So as an introduction to it, it's not terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very clear that they are just like trying to hit certain keynotes very early on in terms of like, oh, this is utilitarianism, blah blah blah, and then they just
Sure.
keep
Yeah.
right. And Freeran really, in essence, if you break it down, what this show is trying to do is doing the same thing, but you do not notice it to that degree. Okay, the writing somehow
Yeah.
like
More subtle.
it flips through the Rolodex of all kinds of weird like adult emotions that we will all go through.
Sure.
And like every episode will have one of those of like, like it will deal. I would say it's similar to Spiritfarer, the game in that sense,
Okay.
right? Like where Spiritfarer, have you played that game?
No, but you've recommended it and
Right.
kind of explained it a little bit.
Where the characters there just like have a certain dimension of like what kind of hardships most
Yeah.
of us will encounter, right? And they are just so much more skilled at telling those stories and those emotions than like both Wheel of Time, and they're not even doing the Rolodex thing. They do not have to get through things in a very like time efficient manner and go like, okay, we're going this and then this and then this and then this, and like every episode has two of these. No, that's not the assignment, and they're still failing that shit. It is actually actively insane how bad the writing is.
Yeah, it is. I said this to friend of the show, an Overwatch caster and expert, talking with Kenobi about it. And I explained it to him as a fun rage watch, as we typically will do. I think in Discord, if you want to be a part of
Yeah.
the community and come chat some media, we do love a media chat every once and again. Um, boy, is there some power system or magic system discussions that are quite legendary. So if you want to get in,
Yeah.
links below, all that good stuff. Um, but talking with Kenobi about the Wheel of Prime, I was like, it's a fun rage watch, and it's almost as if like the CW had like a fucked up flipper baby with Tolkien.
Dude,
Like I don't know if the CW matters to you at all, but it's like all this like kind of melodramatic like romance, like um it's just really kind of like YA writing in a fantasy world, and it's just sad that
you know
it's
what?
like
What sucks for me was, if I remember correctly, I feel like I was just done watching either like Witcher season 1 or Witcher season 2 when it
that.
came
Okay.
out, and
Yeah.
just like the difference just hits you in the face because the source
Yeah.
material really are not like qualitatively different if Wheel of Time is not a better narration in the first place. Okay,
Sure.
it's totally possible. The difference in how both of those shows transport very similar universes is fucking causing whiplash. Like it's
Yep.
just the contrast when I watched it was fucking insane. And it was almost as bad as the contrast of EU and NA Overwatch.
Oh, he's got the tie-ins. He brings it back. He's got the threads. He's weaving it like a loom. He's a seamstress of the lyrical whatever. I don't know. But yes, we are going to get into Overwatch now. We may possibly get back to shows and media and all that good stuff and bad writing towards the end. So stay tuned if that's something you're into. But before we get into some of the Overwatch stuff and a beautiful report written by Yiska that may or may not be teasing a little bit of a systematic change, because, you know, I do be loving that. We do have to support those who support us. That's our patron and our YouTube members. So episode 341 is brought to you by Refied Bean Bronze, Babu Lolshan, Rexane, Sasquatch, and our YouTube members, IMDRW, Brother, Adam L, Ice Ham Gel, Fire Element 6, and AK. We'll start with your piece of work, your report on the possibility, the approaching possibility of ESL Faceit Group adding hero bands to their tournament series. Now, was this? I'll let you kind of like intro this in. How did this kind of come? What was your?
Oops, sorry, I muted you at the end there.
Oh, you're good. Just talking about the report. Like, what was it like getting into
Yes.
the report? Like, what were the hero bands? Like, how did this come about? What do you know?
Yeah, so basically, I've known for a while that Faceit are actually quite active with the Overwatch Championship Series teams, standing in constant, dialogue with those teams in order to get an idea where the product could be improved. And I was quite happy to see that, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely. I think that's stuff you've talked about quite a bit, like wanting to experiment.
yes, and like they've been collecting feedback on certain systems for a while,
Mhm.
and yeah, then eventually, like sometimes like their updates get more concrete, right? And this time around, they communicated that they are strongly considering a hero band system. Now, I think it's also, if this is the first time you're hearing this, which is a distinct possibility, do not get stun locked by the phrase hero bands, because an instant reaction that I think I saw a lot, especially on my Twitter feed, was that hero bands implies sort of like the hero pools, like heavy-handed, like
Okay,
three
yeah.
bands type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I will say, earlier on, I did hear of a more heavy-handed band approach being workshopped or being an idea as to what to introduce, right? The actual system that we got is kind of really lightweight and really a sweet introduction. So, first off, like, because it is so light, it really invalidates the counter argument of saying we only have X amount of heroes. Therefore, this is bad. The other reason why, okay, let me just explain how the system works. Then you see the point that really it will not dominate a series in how the application works. So the lower seed will get a first pick of a hero that they want to ban for the opponent. Okay. So it's an asymmetric ban. They ban a hero. They do not ban it for themselves. The opponent, the higher seed, then gets the second ban, gets to react to that ban, and gets to, once again, ban a hero for the other side, and it can be the same hero. Okay. So, it sometimes...
So blind bans?
So, no.
I guess it's not blind, because it is reactive. Okay.
Yeah. So second choice is definitely the better one, and consequently, the loser of the map beforehand, after the first map, the loser of the first map gets the second choice on the second. The loser of the second map gets the choice for the third, and so on.
Okay.
As to sort of like give a little bit of a comeback mechanic. Now, because it's asymmetrical, what it produces is a higher likelihood of non-mirrored comms. And the theory is that non-mirrored comms are generally preferred by the audience. So I like that there's asymmetric comms. And the fact that it is only one hero ban per team is already pretty light. And now we're getting to the second aspect of it. You are only banning that hero for that one map, and you cannot ban the same hero again for the second map. So you cannot say, I'm banning Lucio for
that was
the entire
case study.
map, right? So you take the map pool into account, or the map that you're playing. You might strategically choose that you're getting rid of Lucio, but considering like this grabs presumably would then grab, and we can talk about if it is smart to do that in best of 3 series or like in the best of ones, right? If that should also apply there, we don't know that. But in best of 5 series, of course, like the impact of one map having Lucio bans and therefore shutting down Rush is not as impactful if it was on all 5 maps, right? So overall, we really have a pretty lightweight system. I think the common talking point in like, we first need a hero that does what Lucio does in order to say, in order for this to not be an issue, is relatively shut down because it really only happens for one map per team.
Yes.
So I don't foresee this to be a major issue, and it brings some fun strategy to the talking points. So overall, I think it's the lightest weight system that you could possibly have employed, feasibly, and it is certainly an interesting one to start scaling upwards, right? Like how does that function? Does that already bring about a desirable outcome? Does it make games more competitive? Does it force more flexibility? Does it force less mirror comms? And if the outcome of that is yes, I think, and I did ask Blizzard, by the way, this is an important one to ask. So I first reached out to for comment for Face It, and they said they're constantly evaluating it, and hero bans is something that they're currently talking about, but they don't have a definitive date. I sent a request to Blizzard, and they said they're currently not have nothing to contribute to that discussion. So for now, we only know that hero bans will be considered for Face It League and the Esports World Cup. Do not know if that's a thing for the OWCS. That's an important distinction as well. It's not to say that it's not the case. And I also asked them whether or not they were required to greenlight this, because in the past, Team 4 were...
Sure, of course.
Right? And they also said they had nothing to share here. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Which is interesting, because if you recall that Alec Dawson, I think his name was,
Mhm.
in the past talked about them playing around with hero ban suggestions, or even something like a token system of like how many hero switches each player gets per
Sure.
Overwatch
Yeah.
game, right? So, um, if they had to greenlight this, it's an interesting way where, like, we have seen in the past that Overwatch esports has been sort of like the guinea pig for the game at large, right?
Yes.
So, while I would not say that there's an indication given here, also because they did not give me a comment whether or not that is,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
an interesting aspect of this report as well. But keep in mind, the situation has also drastically changed because now it's not the Overwatch League doing it; it's a third-party tournament organizer doing that, and they
Right.
could have their own agency, and therefore, I struggle to imply that there's a strong possibility that it could also be coming to the game proper. It's just an interesting coincidence that this is also being brought up months after. Yeah, I think he said it in December after the, I think, lead game developer, lead content. I'm sorry, I'm messing up the title, but before those guys like openly suggested that they're toying around with something like this. Of course, it's also a change that we, as a as a PvP community, or rather as an esports community, have been
Yeah.
talking for years and more intensely for at least 1 year on, in order
Yeah.
to introduce that. Now, um, I don't think anyone had suggested that particular system, but it's still interesting to see how it will apply. And because, like, I once again, and that's the last thing I say before I hand it off to you,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
I suggest everyone to not think in the box unit like hero ban. I think it would serve us even better if we gave that particular type of hero ban the name that the ban system will go with. Okay? So, for instance, like in League, they have Fearless Draft now in the LPL, right?
Okay.
And to call it a distinct feature is very important
Yeah. To give
because
it a name.
yeah, because hero ban does not equal hero ban, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like, maybe I struggle for a name, right? Like, it's but I I would like for everyone to consider that whatever other system we previously tried does not apply to this particular band set unless it was one-to-one the same. Like, the
Yeah.
version or the actual rule set of the hero band is much more important to how the game will be played than that there's a hero ban at all, overall, right? Like, the way hero pools did play is
Yeah.
very different than these hero bands will play.
Yeah.
Like, just because like one hero, like the entire practice structure with agency given to teams will have to fundamentally change. Will have to go away from particular like micro macro level coaching to heuristics. Like,
Yeah.
you need to coach your players to be smart and to be able to work with these curveballs. We've been saying that
Oh,
since
you.
2020. Like, if I'm sorry, like, if that type of coaching, or rather that type of like preparing, is not already in your DNA, you've missed the last 4 years of
Yep.
Overwatch,
You're gonna die.
and you're going to die. And it will change, but it also will introduce cool skill sets of people being good at
Yes.
bands and being good
Yep.
at flexing and being able to bring certain, like, having plan A and plan B, and it won't
Mhm.
be to the fullest extent. And I will say, I agree with the coaches that say that this new system, with the amount of maps that are currently available in competitions, is too much. I think, like, if we're looking at the maps, I would totally support those guys in saying, like, let's cut the map pool in half or something.
Okay. Yeah. I don't hate that. I mean, for example, we have pulling from the OWCS map pool right now. We've got 5 control maps. or I'm sorry, 4 control maps, 4 hybrid maps, 4 escort maps, 2 flashpoints, and 3 push maps. Yeah, those could all be kind of. I think the front half of that pool probably could be halved, maybe slimmed down, push to 2 maps, and you really kind of cut back on the strategic depth, but you can still pick from those like very polarizing or very stratified map pools where there is a lot of verticality on this map, and there's a very flat map to offset it. There's a very you can divvy up, you can have a very colorful map pool without very many options, and the depth comes in with this this new draft format, this new whatever we're gonna call it, revolving bands, whatever we want to designate it as. But I think you're right. I think there is something important to not get too caught up in the jargon of bans. I'm sure we'll figure out something to call it when it happens. And it's also important to realize that, as Yiska has kind of already mentioned, and the report very clearly outlines in its first paragraph, the report only is covering or has information regarding the Face It League and the Esports World Cup. Again, like Yiska said, we don't know if this is coming to the OWCS, and if it does, we don't know when it's coming. Yes. So I think the knock-on effect or the immediate follow-up question is, okay, well, how is this going to be implemented? As it stands right now, with the information that we have at our disposal, we don't really have to worry about that too much. Yes. We don't need a ton of like stream assets because, again, per the information that we have working right now with the Overwatch Face It League, the secondary league to help qualify for the Esports World Cup, that's not going to have a ton of broadcast. That won't have any broadcasts, to my understanding. Is that correct? There will be no broadcast for the Face It League.
I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think that's the case unless it's for those final.
Sure, maybe there's some finals. That's fair, right? Again, there's not a lot of like. I guess the point here is that there's not a ton of like screen time that we need to figure out as like a behind the scenes, as a broadcaster. We don't necessarily need to figure out how to communicate this well, which is kind of nice. It's a weird saving grace that if this isn't implemented in the OWCS just yet, and maybe they're gonna let the Face It League kind of test it out for the players first, see how they like it. You don't have to necessarily have any kind of communicating assets or any kind of broadcast packages to try to show the viewers or adapt some kind of viewable experience to showcase that this hero is unable to be picked by this team and this hero is unable to be picked by that team, right? Like, it's not something you have to communicate, which is great. I think we've talked about it on the show before that experimentation with this game is going to be fantastic because we need to kind of solve the equation of keeping viewers entertained, and because that's the viewership that we've kind of cultivated for the longest time. Hero pools in the past and the COVID era of the internet was an attempt at that. It was just a very toxic and silly implementation. So I don't think the implementation is going to be like a huge problem, partially because it will be very proprietary and it won't have to be broadcasted.
Yeah, I mean, it would in the case of
yes, in the Esports World Cup case, 100% that will be, and that's where I almost don't care, because if you fuck that up, then there wasn't a lack of resources. You know what I mean? Like this, you have the utmost. You have a T-ball in front of you. All you have to do is hit it. Like you really have to screw it up to, like, you just have to think about it a little bit. You have the resources. You can hire some people to figure it out. Again, Saudi monies. It is what it is.
Can you explain, like, what do you mean fuck that up?
It won't be like you're not limited by the resources and the people that you can have to try to like think tank that out, and you have a lot of time before that point.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Like, you have time to set it up and do it right, or at least have a good crack at it before, like, again, if your report comes out and it says, by Dallas, Blizzard's gonna have a proprietary asset or have some kind of like idea of how to communicate bans to an esports audience, that's gonna get a little dicey because again, we know that Blizzard's cutting back on budget. We know Blizzard doesn't want to give this the resources that it deserves, at least as it stands right now, until it's a more proven concept. So it's probably gonna be a little shoddy and a little rough, and it's gonna be, that could hinder things. It could hinder the readability of what's actually happening, who's banning what, who, like, what hero can't be rebanned. There's some details that has to be accurately described. And it doesn't always have to be described. Again, it's without getting into the weeds of it. I think the resources and the length of time before now in the Esports World Cup gives them being, ESL Faceit Group, an opportunity to do it right. And I think that that's good. And once that's over, they can feedback, test it, and iron it out. Maybe it gets adapted to the OWCS. Maybe it gets adapted to. Maybe it gets pushed all the way up to Team 4. Who knows? We don't know.
I'll tell you straight up. Whatever rule set is applied, it needs to be applied across the entire competitive system. You cannot
I would agree, but
no. This would fuck everything if they don't. If it's already organizations are already treating OWCS as a secondary league, right? If the TM rumors are true, and they're not caring really much at all about OWCS at this point, and are primarily focusing on winning
the World
Cup, then this is not going to improve the situation if you have different rule sets where teams have to make the judgment call on which rule set they have to scrim on, right?
100%.
If this happened, you can start rolling it out on Faceit during the downtime of the OWCS and Dallas and whatnot. And I think the implementation onto the Faceit League would have to happen soon. It is already problematic that this will have to coexist because, if they are implementing it for Esports World Cup, I'd argue they need to implement it for the qualifying portion of the Faceit League in order to get a good gouge and get the best teams there. But we already know that if it is at Esports World Cup, then some of the teams that were chosen by the OWCS performances are not being chosen on the active rule set that's being played. And it is a formative change. I think Platchet correctly pointed out that this has the potential of being I would slightly disagree and not say it's as heavily important as Rollock, but it's certainly a rather very important rule set change that will absolutely mess with the power levels of each team to a certain degree, right?
Yep.
So
this is the ultimate argument around the playoff patch, right? You are selecting people for a test that they didn't sign up for, right? You did not qualify under these conditions. You should not be here.
Yeah, and this is bigger than a playoff patch, to be fair.
100%. This is a magnitudes bigger than a playoff patch.
Yeah. So I think if they're making a move and from what I could gather, they communicated that it would rather might even start as early as Faceit League launch, which is I think April 29th.
Okay.
Yeah, it is already in a kind of precarious situation, but I still then you just do it. It's going to be imperfect. It's going to fuck with competitive integrity 100%. For the Esports World Cup a little bit. Yeah. But once again, we can't be competitive integrity Andes at this stage in the esport.
No.
Rather, just I wish this could already have been thrown in. Or rather, maybe that could have been already a thing for OWCS from the get-go. But yeah, I think the speed of innovation needs to pick up a little bit, given the position we're in. It is an interesting argument to make that this is maybe one of the features that could differentiate the Faceit League and the Faceit programs from ranked and from OWCS and in the appeal that it has. Maybe that could get some signups up for you.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't know how big of a draw it would be, really, in essence. Especially because it is a relatively light system. I think like the strategizing element is not as appealing to the common average fan.
Yeah.
Like hard bans in terms of like, oh, I don't want to play against Sojourn. I ban Sojourn for the entirety of the match that I'm playing. That would probably appeal more
That
to
might
a
be
wider crowd.
appealing, yeah.
But
Doing it
yeah,
map by map is a little bit more
no.
is a little bit more work than
Yeah, the speed of iteration just has to pick up significantly, especially looking at the viewership and the sign-up numbers, right?
Yep, 100%. I can't deal with more people DMing me about their random run-ins with Faceit mods that are like, "Hello, have you signed up for the Faceit
They're
League?
hustling. I
Because
mean, they're
we
hustling,
need."
to be fair, right? That's
Yeah, I mean, you have to 100%. You know, I think there's just maybe different ways to get about collecting feedback and doing whatever.
I mean, the feedback
know.
is whatever. It's just a little funny when
It
I think what might have happened is that they just went like through Liquipedia for
could be,
years
yeah.
and years on end. Like there were people that were like loosely connected to Overwatch esports that told me like, what is up with this? Like, why am I being
Yeah.
messaged, right? So,
Yeah, it's
I mean,
nuts.
it's hustling. Like it's I respect it.
I
It's
don't
even
blame them. I think it's just like the net that they've cast is a little too big, if that makes a lot of sense. Like people who aren't players are getting asked if they're going to play. It's like, okay,
yeah.
that's odd.
Yeah.
Why do you mean that you want to ask for feedback? Like why am I not playing? Like what are like I don't get it. Oh, you said something and I meant to follow up with it. Oh no, my cynicism when it comes to like the streamlined approach from all the competitive products being OWCS, the Faceit League, and the Esports World Cup. I wholeheartedly agree that having a streamlined presentation of all of these competitive resumes should be in line. Everything should be the same rule set. That would be ideal. The limitations that we have are third party versus developer, and one is going to inherently move faster than the other if movement happens at all. That's my concern. Is will Team 4, will
Wow.
competitive ops make any kind of movement there?
Damn.
What happened?
Gamba just announced his retirement.
Oh, really? Wow.
Retiring from competitive Overwatch, competing no longer makes sense given lack of financial incentives, absurd hours, and the even worse than expected 2024 ecosystem. It's time to relentlessly dominate the corporate world, working 9 to 5 while diligently following company policies. I will continue with the guys over the next few days as they qualify for Dallas. Oof.
Damn.
Now that's a rough one.
That's a shot across the bow, and I think the comments have it right where it's like you can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
For that long, there's just not any kind of stability, and this is again or that is going to happen more often than not before we get to a stable point, and it's difficult to determine when a stability point is going to happen. Could it happen as we get closer to the esports world cup? Possibly. I don't even know that will necessarily hit like some sort of equilibrium or any kind of stability. It will just be a little bit more stable. You'll have teams hopefully being picked up and given salaries, and hopefully that can kind of keep the lights on for a little bit. But especially after the esports world cup ends, then what? When we really have nothing to do, nothing to compete, and there aren't third party tournaments, because why would they have third party tournaments? It's It's rough. You can't just keep doing this stuff. One of the a legend of the game for sure.
God
Sad to see
damn,
him go.
dude. That sucks. He was
Yeah,
certainly
I
one of
can.
the content machines and like ugh. Yeah, dude. It's a bit of a cannery, the coal mine, not gonna lie. I mean there
Oh,
have been
100%.
many, but
I mean, and you're
ooh.
just gonna kind of see him keep flying out. It's dark days. It can get better. It just needs a lot of time, and it needs Blizzard to pump money into it. Um, will they? Kind of remains to be seen. They needed to do it sooner than later, and it's not coming up, which is sad. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think a more creative coach than I think people give him credit for. I think that the Florida Mayhem run to the championship was really predicated on the coaching staff that I think he and Albert kind of set up. If you want to give that to Gravy, if you want to say that he had a hand in that, I think that's probably a team, benefit or an answer that they kind of came to as a collective. I think that the ruthless Gunba style of team management has it is successful. Call it whatever you want. It got a championship and it has brought a lot of teams a lot of success. It's cultivated a number of players that want to kind of be around that kind of system, and yeah, that's a competitor down. That sucks.
That's actually kind of wild that he also quit immediately and did not like try to win Esports World Cup, right?
Yeah.
Um yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I damn. That one sucks. And then Gator also says first down. Many more to follow.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Like I think a lot of folks thought the Esports World Cup prize pool would be bigger.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Predicated on not terrible information. We still don't know the prize pool for Dallas. So that's another thing. Yeah, it's wild. It's pretty wild.
Yep. Yep. Shit's rough. And you can't just work for pennies because there's no stability, especially when it comes to coaching. Players, you might be able to get by for a little bit, so long as you have an org kind of like title sponsoring you and it's feeding you some kind of money. It's not owl money, but it's something, and that's better than nothing. And the dilemma that we're running into now is that can these these organizations that are coming in and buying up teams, do they have the budget to kind of support a coaching staff or a coach? More often than not, like we've talked about as we approached the end of the Overwatch League, and we talked through the idea of burning it down. What does that look like if we go back to what things looked like prior to the Overwatch League? A lot of teams didn't have coaches, and the ones that did probably weren't paid. Can't do that forever. It's just not something that's going to be sustainable. That's likely where we're headed, which is sad. It's going to be back to weekend warrior coaching, which is only going to make the second half of our show even harder to get through. I think we'll get into what I mean when I put some big bunny ears for audio listeners around, harder to get into. But yeah, it's sad to see Gunba go. A great competitor down, former champion, and somebody who carries a lot of weight in the league. Yeah, sad to see him go for sure. R.I.P. Well, not R.I.P., but
yeah,
pour one out. Career well spent. Came in from the beginning, yeah. He was with Valiant at the start.
Yeah, he will always let you know that he actually coached the first ever Overwatch League game. Then of course he left for Valorant for a while. I wonder how he
Yes.
feels about that now. Then came back and improved Flora Mayhem consistently, right? Like, and then won a fucking league with it.
Won a league.
This hurts, dude. Sucks.
Yeah. That's big sucks, because that's a big hit to a pretty competent team in ends. Again, a coach's impact is not necessarily something easy to spot, but when you have such a pedigree and such a resume, I think you can start to see how their presence can be felt, and we'll have to see how Ents does without having the brains in the operation. Missing that.
Yeah.
Love to see. Sucks. Very mature decision. I'll say that. I think it's not easy to kind of drop things and just cut tail and get out now. But like you said, if the expectations of the World Cup were a little bit bigger, and it didn't live up, what's the point? Might as well get out now before it's never going to get easier to get out.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Dang, sucks. That is not fun, but kind of circling back to hero bans, it'll be interesting to see the feedback that it gets. It'll be interesting to see maybe some of the decision making that some of the players go through. Yeah, we'll kind of. I think it'll be interesting to see the month after the Face It League, what players have to say. Will it be anything more than this sucks to scrim because we have to scrim one system one day and scrim another system another day because the OWCS doesn't have it? Will the OWCS implement it? I'll have to see. Hard to tell. In other news, we have some games. And boy, did Yiska enjoy watching the games. He loved them. He told me prior to the show.
Brother, that shit. Oof.
Just like old times, we get to mauled about some terrible over. Actually, it wasn't that bad. I will say EU was a pleasant surprise. Do you have a preference on which side of the world we work with first? We want to go NA or EU first?
Let's get EU first.
Okay, the chunk of the meat and potatoes. We're going with the Super Shy Ex Oblivione upset. If you didn't catch it, it was the big decider to see who gets out of group. What was it? A? Mm-hmm. Yeah, group A. It was I think we all kind of rightly assumed that group A was going to be a quick EXO space station 1-2. Everybody gets out. It's a great time. And then after that first week of competition, we see EXO go to game 5 against Super Shy, and it's like, whoa, okay, that's a little weird. And then we get to the decider. Super Shy actually upsets them. Goes game 5 again. They get the game 5 win. They advance. GSL groups. It's rough. Only 2 people go out. We sat down and kind of looked at it. My initial takeaway from just a quick view of the game, genuinely very impressed with Super Shy. A couple standout members, and really thought that they had strong. How to put this? Like it kind of gave me glimpses, or it felt very. You could tell that they were very comfortable in one direction strategically, but they also had like a strong fundamental to reposition or retreat. And I thought that was like something that kind of underlines a very not just confident team, but like a genuinely a good squad of players. And I thought that was very surprising. Any quick takeaways before we get into the nitty gritties?
Yeah, I think like I think it was a series that where hero pools of the respective players really mattered. I think it's certainly an interesting choice on the hit scan certainly. Then of course, like Ex Oblivione just had to suffer from losing their main shot caller. I don't know if you caught the interview with Commander X, where Chase said he's also like a heavy caller for all the teams that he played with. So
Okay.
if you're losing a loud voice, it's just hard to improve. And I will say, like, to a certain degree, you definitely saw that there was something missing, right?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes, like, I think prior to the show starting, I think you kind of really touched on a big theme that happened as the series progressed, especially as we got into Flashpoint, was like the mid fight breakdown that seemed to happen, going to like Suravasa, going to like Shambali, where having a vocal presence and to kind of like begin to lead in, you know, those late game, you know, it's coming down to the wire. We need a clear plan. We need somebody to quickly deliver that plan and keep everybody on the straight and narrow. I think that would have probably been enough to push Ex Oblivione over the edge, because again, this was a very, very painfully close game. A couple things go a little differently for either team, and the results could be flipped, right? 100% could be flipped. And I think you could chalk that up to the lack of Chase not being able, not having that presence, and possibly on, you know, I'm gonna keep it a buck, like maybe even having that skill, because for a team that I have quite literally never heard of, I was genuinely impressed at a number of their players, and that shouldn't really be the case for a team like Ex Oblivion. Like you look at that team and you're like, okay, we've got, you know, former OWL players, we've got tier 2 standouts. This should be the team that advances second in this group, if not maybe even challenging for first. And they struggled to get some of these map wins, and it's not good, right? It's not good, not a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, what a wild series to lose, right?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I like that. That Discord call must have been dead as dead, or
Library,
people
bro.
just like killing each other over voice. Because I mean, if you didn't catch the series, like how often it was basically like one fight away for Ex Oblivion to take that
Yeah,
home.
100%. Suravasa was like a complete, I think it was a reverse sweep, like
Yes.
3-point cap, and they didn't, like, Super Shy did not open those points with like a lead. Like they were clawing back leads to capture those last 3 points to kind of close out the series. That is rough. And then Shambali was an absolute fisting, to be crass about it. Like that was not close. I have been very critical in my notes these days, because we don't typically have too many people watching the games live. I haven't really particularly liked Cloud, to be completely honest. Doesn't have much presence. I think they keep wanting to put him on like May and stuff that like just doesn't make a lot of sense. Him and Shockwave just keep kind of trading DPS. I don't think that's typically a recipe for success either. I know that there's like that big brain, you know, galaxy brain, like Houston Outlaws level, like, oh, we play one flex support for these maps because they're better for his style. And it's like, we're not at that level, guys. Like we gotta keep it simple, right? And it's just, I don't know. I don't feel Cloud. I don't think who is it? Twolls is particularly strong. I mean, I don't typically like saying this. I say this very sparingly. I think Twolls kind of got gapped by Hittori.
Yes, I agree.
I was genuinely impressed. I have never heard of Hittori in my life. Let me see if I even recognize some of the teams that he's played for in the past. Absolutely not. Quick Esports. I only know that because of Wikipedia. I've never seen a Quick Esports game. Period. The end. Homie can play Orisa. Let me tell you what. I was genuinely impressed at some Orisa play, and that says something. Yeah, got absolutely gapped. Like I mentioned prior to, I really liked, it was almost, I don't I struggle with saying this because I think it also can paint the wrong picture, but they almost kind of felt like NYXL in the way that they would be kind of passive in some ways. Not passive, but they were like hard to kind of engage onto. Like if something didn't kind of if their proactivity or if something, happens or if they were getting, engaged onto, they would be very quickly they would be very quick to like instantly react and like just completely like drop it like a hot potato, right? Like just get out of there, retreat, reposition, don't lose anybody. Um, and in the times that they couldn't necessarily get out as quick as they wanted, a number of times in my notes I highlighted names. I really thought that Tekuno was an absolute stud. Definitely somebody to keep your eye on if you're looking at, new players coming up in this post Overwatch League world. I think Super Shy, if they stay together as a team, has some potential magic to him. I think Hattori and Tekuno are definitely the two standouts. I thought his Kiriko and Baptiste were phenomenal. Definitely keeping Hattori alive in positions that you could definitely see quite a number of worse tanks and worse flex supports probably die in. But also being very active in the kill feed, not in the sense that they're finishing up kills, but they're actively like trying to make a little bit of a play. And for a player that's fairly young in their career, I'm gonna double check Tekuno's resume again. Yeah, it's pretty light, at least according to Wikipedia. I think that says something. That's definitely like a mark of somebody who's got it, right? Who's somebody who could be kind of on the come up. Two of the big reasons why I think Super Shy advanced, right? Those two players on top of having that kind of that coil-like ability. Hopefully that makes sense. Like you think of like a snake when it coils up to like strike, like it kind of like takes a step back to go forward. I thought they did that really well, but they also had some proactivity. I think on Esperanza, they really kind of I think this was the map that I used to juxtapose against North America, where it was like, okay, we're at least trying to make something happen in the neutral rather than just standing around and waiting for an ult or waiting for a pick. Like we're just waiting for something magical to happen. Whereas Super Shy was actively trying to force the issue. Like we're trying to be proactive. We're trying to make engagements happen. We're trying to burn some resources to make an engagement happen. It felt more methodical. Obviously, it's a little bit easier to do on maps like Hollywood when you want to run rush. And they seemed very good at it. Again, I made allusions to Space Station. It felt like they were like a rush team. I'd love to see that head to head. I don't believe we got that in group play. No, we didn't. Space Station just qualified 6-0 and dodged Super Shy. So maybe as we get into the maiden stage, Space Station and Super Shy, I think that will be a good game. Obviously, you have to give that to Space Station, but I think having that kind of like rush mirror would be very interesting to kind of create that hierarchy. But yeah, no, big ups to Super Shy. Very, very exciting team. I think that definitely the MVP for me was Tekuno. I was quite impressed. Among other things, I think Hattori also, yeah, like I said, kind of gapped a little bit. It was a fun one. That was the fun one. The other one, quite just kind of boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
NA's rough, man. And it's sad because I had a lot of good things to say when it came to Timeless. Audio listeners, for those who can't see, we're going to be looking at Timeless versus Citrus Nation, which I think I'd say, just based on name value alone, is kind of an upset. I think Citrus Nation was kind of the darling, the standout unknown from last stage in the group play. I think definitely kind of put their name out there, and now being able to completely sweep in like a fairly convincing fashion Timeless, who prior to this was upsetting M80, going close with some teams, like definitely a good team in North America. Citrus Nation kind of put a beating on them in a big way. This one, like I said, it was a big juxtaposition between like the fundamentals of Europe and NA's. And I'm going to be frank here. it was lazy. Much like the Wheel of Prime, it was all magic and sex appeal, and we're just gonna make shit happen, and we're not gonna worry about the consequences.
Yeah.
You a little bit more methodical. We had some plot points. We had some. You could tell that there was some planning going on here. Like there was a strategy that they were approaching this with. Both teams, and I don't think either team particularly played all that well. I think that it was just, and I hate to say this because I think it's a trap that like viewers will typically fall into. This was definitely one team played worse and did not try to adapt and just kind of the biggest adaptation that I would have loved to seen from Timeless is move Rocket off of tank busting and put him on a wing. Give him some space. Create like, were they trying to set Rocket up for success? No. Did they have good macro? No. Timeless had piss poor macro. I think that was very evident on Eichenwald. I'm sorry. When you are defending Eichenwald and you get to point B and you take that first fight at the gate and you just magically give up the high ground on your second fight because you want to Kitsune rush all over their face and you actively don't win that fight, you deserve to lose. I'm sorry. That was unforgivable. Like you have one of the most defensible positions in Overwatch in hybrid, and you just whiff it.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. You're not putting some of your best players in power positions. I don't know. It was hard for me to discern if there was a reason why Rocket wasn't felt. Like this is probably one of, if not, I would say one of. I'd say like one of like the top 3 tracers in the region, right? Like somebody who has made his presence felt since the Pro-Am and prior to, for any T2 fanatics out there. God bless you if you're still out there fighting the good fight. But Rocket has been somebody to be a playmaker, to be, somebody in the clutch that can win Timeless these fights, or Wisp prior to. And you wipe the names off the boards and you would never know that that was Rocket. At first I was like, oh, maybe it's lethal. He's holding rails and it's making it hard for Rocket to get in. That wasn't the case. More and more I would just spot him in Timeless's clump, just trying to shoot the Orisa. And it just made me mad because they were just losing.
Yeah.
There was no proactive pressure. There was no damage going out. We were just shooting tanks and then going, oh, dang, we lost. Throw my hands up in the air, I guess. And then, oh, Eric, thank you for bringing up City Center. Let's just watch these teams just dance around the midpoint and do nothing for a good, minute.
Yeah,
I hate this. I hate this so much.
This, it's still Overwatch 1 and both of these Orisas have shields,
do something. This was something that I thought, this was 2020, Lucio Brig, Cassidy meta. Mm-hmm. I don't exactly remember the tank, but it was stuff that I thought Houston and Florida did really well, where they would make proactive plays. It's something that I've commended London on early on when push was being introduced. Is they would take their Lucio and they would speed their hit scan, or they would speed somebody to an angle. And I know Spillo fans will go, oh, the angles, we got to play the angles. It's true. That is a way to create pressure to make something happen. It will catalyze forward momentum. Yeah. That will burn a resource. Hopefully, that's the idea, right? And that's stuff that you can spot in Europe, specifically with Super Shy, specifically with Ex Oblivione. The big theme with these two games, if we kind of use them as a case study, is which regions have a stronger mid pack. What is the if we're looking at the average of the good teams, who has a higher average? It's very clearly Europe.
And it's crazy not because I feel not that long ago we talked to folks and they had the insane opposite sentiment. And now I feel nah, it's just especially in this meta, it's just I would argue really only Toronto Defiant is is at that level, and then everyone else sprinted away, scrimming, the TMs, the ends, the SSGs.
Yep.
It's a logical consequence, right? And to be fair, like NA also scrims EU, but like maybe the frequency is lower, or I don't know what it is. Because I don't think it's the mechanical talent necessarily that makes it.
No,
come
I
with
don't think so
discrepancy.
either. I don't think so either. I think it comes down to like, and I mentioned this previously, like you have to be present in the game, and I know that you kind of like foreshadowed this with the hero bands talk, where it's like you need to like be thinking about how to be good at Overwatch. Like if you're presented with a problem in Overwatch, generally, how might you solve it?
Mm-hmm.
And typically that isn't just switch heroes.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it just, oh, the comp sucks.
Yeah.
That's analysis that I will beat out of anybody who like tries to like, you know, go through some VODs. Don't harp on the comp. Harp on the resources and how they're using them.
Yeah.
My problem with North America, and specifically this game on this submap, we have resources and it's just a cold war. We're just standing here. Nobody's doing anything. We're just shooting across the bow and hoping we hit. It's like watching Sea of Thieves PvP. This is not what I signed up for. Somebody do something.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. And then when they do stuff, they do like the most heinous, like, I don't know. They unironically Wheel of Prime it, and it makes me really sad because I know Timeless is a better team than that. I know Rocket's a better player. I know that squad has a lot going for it, and maybe it's a meta thing. I think that was definitely leeway that I gave to SSG prior to in stage 1, where it was like, okay, there's a meta change. They got caught by it. That's why the performance looks so low. And that could be the case for Timeless.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there was a change up. Maybe they thought they were a little bit behind in the meta. Who knows? Hard to say. But there was very clearly a lack of DPS presence.
Mm-hmm.
A lack of it's not a lack of skill. It's really like, and I hate to boil it down to like a lol bad macro, but there wasn't a ton of like critical thinking on like where we're taking our fights on Eichenwald. Very big one. There's a lack of proactivity when we look at Oasis. That lack of having an overarching plan when the game kind of slows down to this like very just pass the ball back and forth state, you know, like we've seen previously in other metas going back to the Owl era, like on maps like the first fights on what's the push map that's really long at the beginning? It's not New Queen Street, it's Coliseo, right? You think of like the San Francisco Shock and the Justice. I think they had like a historic during the Junker Queen meta where they were both just like throwing knives back and forth, just waiting for rails, right? Like nobody's doing anything. You guys need to do something. Proactive Overwatch is good Overwatch. It's the one thing that I think we all could agree on that was like a very clear law coming out of the Owl era. We gotta be proactive. We need to catalyze something. We gotta make something happen for ourselves because we can't just count on somebody hitting a fat rail and then we go in and we clean up, right? That's not always gonna happen. So how do we be proactive? NA, we don't know. We hope they make a mistake before we make a mistake, and then we speed in and we kill them. That was the gist of it, right? And sometimes that will happen. Sometimes, and to Timeless's credit, you have somebody like Sunjun who's just gonna like charge a rail real fast, skate across, jump up, hit somebody, your team goes in, you win the fight. Great, love it. What happens when that doesn't necessarily, when he misses the rail? What happens when he can't necessarily get the angle? What happens when somebody is marking Rocket? Let's say they do make the mid-map adaptation, the mid-match adaptation, and they put Rocket on an angle and he's a little bit more free to be able to pressure the backline. But he can't get it done. Maybe they answer that adaptation. How are we like chain wrestling our strategy? Nothing. We just shoot the tank faster than they shoot our tank, and we hope and we pray. Like that was the gist of it, and it was so sad. I was like, God, it's good to see somebody like Citrus Nation get a come up, just like I would say about Super Shy. I think it's good to see like some new blood get opportunities. Will this team go far? I thought Tap had some moments just in terms of like mechanical skill. Obviously, I think a lot of people will rally around Lethal. I think he is that kind of +1 player that can really kind of turned it on and just like absolutely shit stomp. And there were a couple times on Ike, there were a couple times on Esperanza where they're winning fights just off the back of him getting 2 down a tank. And it's like, you really don't deserve to be here right now, but hey, somebody's clutching and you just got to run with it. And there's potential, right? There's potential here. I'm excited to see them get a main stage appearance. They get more, airtime. Will they make Dallas? I mean, okay, forgive me for not remembering exactly all the rules, but how many seeds does NA get? And it's all
3.
point based, right?
Yeah.
Except the winner of the second main stage. The winner of the second main stage gets a direct seed, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a world? Okay, Citrus Nation starts off their stage 2 main stage, birth, pairing off against the Toronto Defiant. I'm sorry, you're not beating them. That is a shoe-in for a potential finalist. So that's an instant lower bracket. And it's rough when you start off instantly going to the lower bracket. That's not great for points, and that's not great for your tournament hopes, right? So that it's rough out here. That being said, it depends on if that was just a bad day at the office for Timeless, or if there really is like problems under the hood for that team. You do have to look at Luminosity, you have to look at M80 as, maybe the top 3 along with the Toronto Defiant. And then is there a Citrus Nation at 4? Is there a Timeless at 4? Based on just results, you kind of have to go Citrus Nation. So it's there's a way, but it's an uphill battle to be able to get there for them. I don't suspect that they'll be going to Dallas, but again, it's good for the game to have more names out there. And there's big storylines here, right? You have Lethal coming off of, some limited play in the Overwatch League. He's now kind of this flag bearer for a team that really shouldn't be here. It was Citrus Nation not the team that got in off of like the big tiebreaker last stage?
I think so, yeah.
That?
I think so, yeah.
Right? Like that's a really dope storyline to see, like, oh, you barely squeak in stage 1 off of some crazy tiebreaker. You grab Lethal and now you're making main stage. Like that's important. That's really big.
Yeah.
Let's say they get to Dallas. Now you get Lethal not Samsung Galaxy, Space Station Gaming, right? Like the core of the former team that he left, right? There's big storyline implications. I think it's great to see the ending here. I'll get off my soapbox. Is that it's good to see new teams on the come up. It's good to see new blood. Boy, howdy, does NA need to stop being lazy. I'm so tired of watching lazy Overwatch.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, wasn't
so bad, man.
Wasn't a fun one too.
No, that was painful. That was absolute. Like, I enjoyed the Super Shy EXO game. I took a nap and I was like, all right, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna crunch through Timeless and Citrus Nation, and we're gonna have some great notes and we're gonna have some talking points. Yeah, I haven't nearly been that asleep since watching like Renegade and like Ajax miss beats in like 2016.
Yeah,
shit was rough. That was it's a step back for sure. But yeah, I'm excited in some ways and not so excited in other ways. It really does feel like the talent pool has really flipped from being very NA centric to being like almost very EU centric. Like the density of good teams in EU is actually quite high. Like you said, you've got Space Station, you got ENCE, you got Twisted Minds. EXO still isn't horrible. Like you've got some genuinely top talented, like world class players in Europe actively playing, pushing their region along. And you can feel the absence of the Korean talent. You can feel the absence of all the good teams from the AL era, not just kind of like holding up a lot of these tier 2 teams. It's rough out here. Anything else? Anything else from the news docket that we missed?
No, not really.
Really?
Nope. Still.
All right.
Yeah. Oh well.
You miss. Any other media obligations to get through?
Uh,
I,
no, not really.
no?
Yeah, no, just like I'm just reading, comments of the Gamba thread and whatnot, and
Nah.
uh,
It's rough, man. It's sad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard
But
to be high on competitive Overwatch at
yeah,
this
of
stage.
course. 100%. You kind of can't be. Like you might have like hopes for the future, but as it stands right now, you can't like this is not something to pursue full time. That would be a mistake. That would be
Yeah,
not good financial advice. Put it that way, right? Can't do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And for somebody who's doing it, who's been doing it as long as he has, maybe it's time for something else. Like you said, he's done Valorant before. That's on the rails of success, right?
Yeah.
That can't really fuck with that. So maybe he goes there. Who knows? Doesn't mean that he's getting out of esports. Well, he did kind of talk about a corporate 9 to 5, so maybe he is. Who knows?
The thing
But
is, you also like I think here a lot of the sentiments is like that I read on socials like esports is just really like a phenomenon of like low interest rates, and you just have to look at the industry and say yes, it hurts, but none of them took a nosedive like Overwatch did, right? Like
oh yeah, 100.
this,
Percent I mean, it wasn't propped up like Overwatch was, right?
yeah, it's like CS is about to enter another renaissance in 2025 and 2026. Valorant is still doing. Yeah, League is slowing down, but it's still the biggest game in the world. Still innovating constantly, still hosting huge events, still like the major part of the talk of the town. It is Overwatch, and it's how Overwatch is broadcast, and it's
Yep.
how many stories this esport creates, and it's how interesting the players are, and it's how interesting the game is, and it's how interesting the content creators around it are. And all of that, you just look at it and have to think it's a worse product than competitors
Because
in
it
the
is.
market right now.
Yeah.
And like there are some Omega copium vectors, like Japan, like a potential
Sure.
reintroduction
Yeah.
of China into the market. But like, what does that really help
How does that
a
help us
Western
now?
coach now?
Yeah.
Like realistically, like what could even happen? Like China to be reintroduced, have their own tournament organizers, and more frequently like invite for international event. It's just not likely
Yeah.
there's anyone that's willing
It
to
would take
bankroll the scene.
such a long time before you have enough international competition to where Chinese, Japanese, maybe even like a surplus or a bump in Korean viewership, just basically Asia in general at that point, kind of starts to carry these international events that Western audiences or Western teams and organizers can use that to their advantage. Like it would take a number of these events to have like surprising viewership backed by Asia. Um, and you could maybe, I don't know, you could maybe try to leverage that to organizers where it's like, oh, yeah, look at our viewership at international events. We're an international event qualifying team. Look at our resume. We've made it to XYZ number of events. You should hire us. You should give us money. If like that is a copium vector, like yeah, there is good seeds there, but it's going to take so long for that to happen. How do we fix it now? It has to be Blizzard. That's the quickest fix, and
Yes.
I just don't see that happening, and it's sad to say, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, no, it is all on Blizzard at this point. I think like the third party tournament organizers are bringing good stuff to the
Mm-hmm.
to the system as we hoped. We would of course like to have more third party tournament organizers,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, it is about Blizzard, right? Like contributing quality revenue streams, pumping a little bit more money into this system themselves,
Yep.
caring more about it, catering and aligning their ranked model more towards it. But yeah, I like even if they were to do that, there's still a question of how proficient they are at that
Yeah.
particular skill set of creating an esport in comparison to, um, other scenes. And while they're like, I had an article also, I think this week, last week maybe, with
Mm.
the Vitality owner, was like
Okay.
one of the major global esports organizations, and the guy basically said like, of course, like they never got in because the price tag on the Overwatch League was completely ridiculous, but it's
Yep.
also that the game itself is just not that friendly to an esports viewership. Like it doesn't transport, what other games do. And you look at CS, and you just have to say that's true, right? Like if you want Overwatch esports to work, it has to be be a game that works at scale. The player base is much improved, and still the viewership is dwindling. First and foremost, because the competitive ranked experience is not converting enough viewers into the esports ecosystem, and
Yep.
maybe they are not informed about what is going on. But like, yeah, I think like if you look at Gumba's case in particular, it's actually ridiculous how long the guy held out in the
Mhm.
system, being on welfare after, a career high, winning the last Overwatch League title. And also like just because, I mean, look at the skill set the guy has, right? Like he's done all the machine learning stuff behind the scenes for like statistical analysis before as well. I think he has a CS degree, but if I'm not mistaken, might not be in CS. I'm not 100% so computer science. But yeah, like the earning potential in this current market is fucking ridiculous in comparison, right? Like the
Yep.
hourly rates that he's about to receive is unironically in the
Oh,
100x margin, right?
100%. Yeah. Like this is. I'll share an anecdote prior to the Overwatch League, during like the hype of, the peak salivation of the owl model being teased and unveiled at BlizzCon and whatnot. It was back when I was still kind of working under Baroy, working and writing stuff for Winston's Lab, kind of like part time, and casually talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like Gunba and I are like chatting about like how to do like just like big picture thinking about like how to best record and do the Gunba vision, or the automated, not automated learning, but the visual learning, to kind of scrub the vods as best you could. And this is somebody who has like a skill set that can be transferred in a number of different ways. So yeah, when you say 100x, this is not an understatement. Like this is somebody who's very intelligent with a skill set that was, you know, creatively used in Overwatch for a long time. Um, that will find a lot of work and probably be quite proficient at it. If I've seen some of those content pieces with him in the past, where he's got like 7 different things open on one monitor, and he's playing WoW, and he's doing a podcast, and he's watching VODs all at the same time and playing TFT, like this is somebody who's just like tragically bored all the time and would like a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's he 100x is not an understatement.
Yeah.
So as it's sad to see him go, it's it's a good thing. It's a good thing to see that somebody's going to go get some benefits and have some paid time off. What's that like? Be able to punch out. Ooh, scandalous.
Oh, this is interesting. Wait, what? There's another news on our competitive Overwatch currently being posted. Now, okay, this is hot off the press. I'm not
Okay.
sure how
Blistering hot.
how true this is, but we just talked about the vitality thing. And then
No.
someone, I'm not sure who Kugito is. Is that a guy for the gamer? From the game, like, okay, so apparently Vitality wanted to acquire them. And the translation, here's my poor translation of his words. The reason why I made this title for this section of my PowerPoint presentation are esports organizers are really not interested in Overwatch, ? Is because Team Vitality did reach out to us and was made them give up acquiring us is simply because our offer was too high, while we still want to remain our owner rather than transfer this position to Team Vitality. And that's why they did not acquire us. That is all. So I think it's just equal to they were refused by us. And after that, they just claim they are not interested in Overwatch. I think their CEO is a pretty asshole on this. So despite our offer indeed a little bit too high, somebody still accepted it. Anyway, we finally got rich people from Saudi Arabia to accept this price. As Saudi Arabia accepted this offer, it reflected that our offer got no problem when it's their CEO's fault. I'm just saying. Okay, the legibility of that translation is
sure, yeah.
questionable as well, but like
OK，开路子，欢迎来到
it's certainly interesting. Huh.
Okay, am I missing something, or is this from the gamer? Yeah,
the
from
gamer.
so FTG, the Korean team with Alpha E, Bernard, Bellasaria, Finn, Flora, Violet. Does this not kind of soft confirm that they did get a Saudi team sponsor?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Still not
So, like,
announced, but
We don't know who it is, but we know that, like the Reddit comment section shows, Violet indeed got some money. So that's interesting. It is interesting that Vitality was kicking around. Like I think we adequately, primed everybody that like teams are kicking around. Teams are interested. Teams want to get out there, and they have these stipends for the World Cup. So why not use them? And this just sounds like from the gamer just asked for some things, negotiated a little hard, and Vitality didn't want to play ball. Sounds like they
pretty
were
wild that
interested.
this how ruthlessly this guy lied in my face, but yeah, fair play.
I mean, you gotta play the cards, I suppose. Play the game.
Yeah.
PR, whatnot, optics. We love an optics buzzword, but that is interesting. Happy to see that there is more. Again, there's more interest in Asia, which
keep in mind,
always kind of was the case.
I did not know that Team Vitality was actually
right
making moves. I had also not heard that. Otherwise, I would have pressed him on that. So, because like Team Vitality has just gotten active in several other esports and has expanded, right? Like they have taken on a StarCraft team that I think they just won another GSL Code S with one of their players, and then I think they picked up another squad from another team. So yeah, I mean to pick up from the gamer is, it's not like you're getting like first place points for Esports World Cup, but
it's not bad.
Could have a like top 10 world team easily, right?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Definitely.
Well, my guy, I know for future interviews how I have to take what you're telling me. I guess we learn.
That's information that you gotta know. So, all right. Well, that definitely puts a fun little twinkle and a ripple into the plans of some.
Yeah.
Definitely teases some fun news in the future that I'm sure we'll cover. Anything else coming down the pipeline?
No, not really. I'm just trying to get some interviews on the records, trying to get that new format out, working on another format. And then, honestly, like the more I look at this, also looking more and more, just on the side, getting more and more invested in CS as an esport that, like, I'm also currently just playing CS.
Okay.
So, like, it's just fun at the moment as well. But also the scene is just dope. Like the type of stuff, like if you go on hltv.org right now, you would probably find like, I don't know, 6 or 7 competitions going on simultaneously at any given point, right? That's just not, like, it's just a different environment completely in comparison. Now, is it easy to derive value as a journalist in that community? I think, like, in fairness, like there's always an element of like here, like if I'm reaching out to someone, they are likely to respond to me. That's not true
Yeah.
in CS, right?
No, yeah, it's definitely a little bit harder. That's for sure.
Yeah, so we'll
Can't
see.
imagine.
See how it go.
All right. Well, if you're into that CS content, get out some tack shooter stuff. This has got some stuff coming down, hopefully. All right. That's 341. I'm gonna go watch Wheel of Prime and hate it. Everything that it's worth.
Based. All right.
We'll see you next week. We'll get some games in. See you then.